Kyiv did not sleep that night, not because it heard screams, there were none, and not because it saw fire, not yet. The city stayed awake because the air grew heavy, as if someone had pressed it to the ground with an iron palm. The Dnipro moved slowly, black and mute, swallowing the moon's reflections like memories that refused to return. The warriors of Rus were coming back. They entered without horns, without songs, without triumph. Their horses were covered in sweat and dust, and their faces were calm, too calm for men who had seen death up close. In that calm, there was something worse than rage, the indifference of victors. The gates of Kyiv opened slowly, creaking, as if the city hesitated whether it should let its own sons back inside. Among them walked Miroslav. He was not the tallest, not the loudest, but when he passed by, people lowered their eyes, not out of fear, out of understanding. That is how one looks at a man who has seen more than he should have and returned with it. His cloak was dark, without ornament. On the hilt of his sword were scratches, as if someone had clawed at the metal with fingernails. Miroslav did not hurry. He knew. When you have won a war, time no longer holds power over you. Prisoners waited in the square. They were forced to their knees, faces to the ground. The men were exhausted, hollow-eyed. They had already endured the worst part, waiting. The women stood apart. They were allowed to stand, not out of mercy, but calculation. Their hands were bound, but not cruelly. Their hair was loose. Some cried silently. Others stared straight ahead, as if still clinging to the remnants of dignity. The warriors of Rus looked at them, not with lust, but with appraisal, the way one looks at a trophy before deciding where to place it. Miroslav stopped. His gaze slid across the rows of captives, unhurried, emotionless, and only for a moment did it linger on one woman. She did not look away. It was unsettling, not defiance, not arrogance, rather a silent refusal to break. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight. She looked at him as if she wanted to say something, but knew that any word would be used against her. Miroslav did not smile, but neither did he turn away. "They fought well," someone said behind him. The voice was low, steady. Voivoda Sviatahor, a man whose orders were never repeated twice. "Well," Miroslav agreed, "that's why they lost." Sviatahor studied him closely. "What should we do with them?" The question did not demand haste. In Rus, decisions were not made on emotion. Fear was a tool, not a weakness. "The men? Leave them here," Miroslav said. "Let the city look at them. And the women." The pause stretched. The women felt it on their skin. There was something cold in the air, almost intimate, the moment when fate has not yet been decided, but is already close. "Take them," Miroslav said. "But not together?" Sviatahor nodded. He understood the subtext. Separation frightened more than chains. They were led through narrow streets. The night tightened around them like a conspiracy. Torches cast shadows that twisted the warriors' faces, turning them into something half-human. The woman who had met Miroslav's gaze walked in silence. She kept her back straight. It irritated one of the guards. "Lower your head," he hissed. She did not answer, and did not lower it. Miroslav walked ahead, but he knew. She was looking at his back. He felt it as clearly as the weight of the sword at his side. The house was dark and warm. Wooden walls held the day's heat. She was led inside and left alone. The door closed. Silence. She stood still for a few seconds, then slowly sat on the bench. Her hands were still bound, but the rope did not bite into her skin. That was deliberate. The door opened again. Miroslav entered without guards. He did not look at her right away. He removed his cloak, set his sword aside, sat across from her. Only then did he raise his eyes. "What is your name?" She was silent. "This is not an interrogation," he said calmly. "It is a choice. You may stay silent. But silence is also an answer. She swallowed. Lada. Her voice was hoarse, but steady. You know why you are here, Lada? I do, she replied. Because you won. Miroslav tilted his head. No, because you looked. Their gazes met. There was no desire between them, no tenderness. There was confrontation. Are you afraid? He asked. Yes, she said after a pause. But not in the way you want. That was brave. Or foolish. Miroslav slowly rose. He stepped closer, but stopped at arm's length. He did not touch her, did not even lean in. Fear is a language, he said. We simply speak it better than others. He untied the rope. Slowly, carefully. Go, he said. Lada flinched. Where? To a place where you will remember this night longer than any pain. She did not understand, and that was the most frightening part. Morning in Kyiv began without the sun. The sky was low and gray, as if the city had been sealed under a lid. The bells were silent. Merchants stepped into the square slowly, avoiding one another's eyes. Everyone knew. Today they would not be looking at goods. The male captives were left where they could be seen from every corner, on their knees, unblindfolded, wordless. They were not given water, they were not beaten, and that broke them the fastest. Lada woke to silence. She was not bound, not locked in. The door stood open. It was more disorienting than any lock. The house was warm. On the table, a bowl of water, bread, a piece of salt. Everything neat. Everything humane. She did not touch the food. She walked to the door, stepped outside. Warriors stood in the street. They did not look at her, did not even move. Where should I go? She asked. No one answered. Lada took a step, then another. They let her pass. In that moment she understood. Her freedom was part of the trap. Miroslav watched from a distance. He stood on a rise near the church, hands folded behind his back. Beside him, Sviatahor. She's not running, the voivode remarked. Only those who still believe in direction run, Miroslav replied. She's searching for the boundary. Lada stopped in the middle of the square. She saw the men. Their shoulders had sagged overnight. Their eyes had lost focus. One of them lifted his head, and she recognized him. Her sister's husband. Her fingers twitched, but she did not rush forward. Miroslav noticed. Self-control is a dangerous thing when used improperly. Bring her, he said. This time he did not sit. He stood by the window, looking out at the Dnipro. Lada stopped at the threshold. She had learned the rule. Make no sudden movements. You could have left, Miroslav said without turning. Yes, she replied. But I didn't. Why? She was silent. Because if you had fled, he continued, you would have left them here. And if you stayed, you would force me to reckon with you. He turned. Their gazes crossed like blades. You're playing a dangerous game, Lada. I'm not playing, she said quietly. I'm holding on. Miroslav stepped closer, stopped. Again, he did not touch her. In this war, he said, it's not the strong who survive. It's those who are remembered. He led her onto the balcony. From there, the square was visible. Look, Miroslav said. The men were made to stand, not for execution. They were ordered to stand, simply to stand, under the eyes of the city. Why are you doing this? Lada asked. Because fear must be public, he replied. Hide it, and it weakens. She gripped the railing. And the women, she asked, why do you need us? Miroslav looked at her for a long time. Because you are memory, he said at last. Men die. Women tell. He leaned closer. His voice was quiet, almost level. The only question is what exactly you will tell. That night, Lada was not locked in again. She was allowed to watch from the window as the torches went out. As the city fell asleep, knowing it would not forget. She felt his presence even when Miroslav was not nearby. Not as desire, as pressure, as a shadow falling across her thoughts. He did not touch her. He did not command her. He did something worse. He waited to see who she would become, and that was what frightened her most. Kyiv woke up different. Not destroyed, changed. The city seemed to have learned to speak in whispers. Doors opened more slowly, footsteps grew softer, glances shorter. People learned the most important rule: look, but do not remember too much. The square no longer held prisoners. The empty space was more frightening than yesterday's knees on the ground. Lada stood by the window, watching the women of the city pass the house. Some carried water, some infants, some nothing but their own thoughts. They did not look at the windows, but they knew they were being watched. She no longer asked permission to leave. No one answered, and that was the answer. Miroslav had not come for 3 days, and in that absence, there was more presence than in any conversation. They left, Sviatogor said when Miroslav returned from his patrol. Who? Miroslav asked without turning. Those you let live. Miroslav nodded. Where to? South. They say it's safer there. Miroslav smiled faintly. They will carry Kyiv with them, he said, wherever they go. Sviatogor fell silent. And the woman? She is no longer a captive, Miroslav replied, and not yet free. That's dangerous. Power is always dangerous, Miroslav said, especially the kind that demands nothing. He came in the evening, without guards, without weapons. Lada heard his steps and did not turn right away. She had learned to wait. You know they left, he said. I know, she answered. You could have gone with them. Yes, but you didn't, she turned. Did you want me to stay? Miroslav looked at her for a long time. I wanted to know, he said, what you would do when fear no longer pushes you forward. He stepped closer, stopped, again at the same distance. And? I stayed, Lada said, because flight is also a story, but it's forgotten quickly. He nodded. Then listen carefully, Miroslav said. Tomorrow you will leave, alone, without escort, without restrictions. Where to? Wherever you choose. Lada tensed. Is this a trap? No, he replied. This is the end. She searched his face for a crack. Found none. And what will happen to you? To me? Miroslav echoed. I will stay here. I will be remembered without you. She took a step closer. Are you sure? For the first time, he did not answer immediately. In the morning, the city silently watched her go, without a bundle, without tears, without looking back. Some recognized her, some did not, but everyone felt it. This woman carried something with her. On the hill, she stopped, turned. Kyiv stood as it always had, strong, heavy, full of shadows, and somewhere within it was Miroslav, not as a man, as a decision. Lada walked on. Years later, this war would be told in different ways. Some would say Rus was cruel, some that it was just, some that it won, and some would tell it differently. About a city that learned to terrify without blood, about a warrior who never touched, yet left a mark, and about a woman who walked out alive and became memory. Because sometimes the most frightening thing is not what is done to you, but what you tell afterward.